up a seat to the bar and join us for another episode of McAnally's Pubcast, a podcast exploring the fun and fantastical mind of Jim Butcher's The Dresden Files series. Hosts Tansen, Jess, and Maggie bring you another round of literary analysis on this immense, immersive, and colorful environment inhabited by Harry Dresden, the world's only licensed private investigator and professional wizard. Join an active and engaged community of new and die-hard dedicated fans focused on the fabulous themes, theories, characters, context, lore, and more. This is McAnally's Dresden Files Pubcast, brought to you by Free Flow Rambling. Conjure by it at your own risk. Welcome to the McAnally's Pubcast, brought to you by Free Flow Rambling. This is episode 11.1, Alliterate Advertising, where we are covering the short story Vignette. My name is Tansen, and I'm joined by Maggie.
Hello.
And Jess.
Welcome back, guys.
Hey, long time no see.
It's been so long.
Pull up a chair.
Thank you so much to our Patreon subscribers for your generous support. It's people like you who help us keep doing what we're doing. If you're not yet a Patreon subscriber, sign up today and get a fuck ton of bonus content, kick-ass merch, behind-the-scenes outtakes, and more. Sign up today at patreon.com/freeflowrambling.
Harry and Bob discuss options for revitalizing Dresden's Yellow Pages ad.
So this short story was written as a promotional brochure just to be handed out at conventions and be like, hey, if you guys are looking for fantasy, y'all like fantasy, here's a quick little tidbit. It gives you a nice quick summary of things to come and things that have already happened.
Yeah.
And it is. It's short and sweet.
It's very cute. It's a brilliant little exchange between Bob and Harry, right? It's a cute little moment. It's a nice little, friendship thing. It's, very quintessential to both of them. It's just, it's a lovely little,
just nice.
Slice of life. Just
Exactly.
a little, a day in the life of,
Yeah. And safe. We're just in the basement. It's just Bob and Harry, okay?
Nothing's blowing up.
Nothing's banging on the door.
Nothing's making us close the book and walk away and leave those last 3 pages.
Exactly.
It's like, aw.
And this is supposed to be set in between Death Mass and Blood Rites, which is obviously what we're talking about it right now. Crazy. But coming out of Death Mass, again, it's still like, whew, we're still safe.
All Harry has to worry about right now is his Yellow Pages ad. Oh, my goodness. Celebration.
And I had a little bit of a giggle with reading that introduction part where Butcher is like, probably shouldn't have left this till 2 o'clock in the morning, right?
Right. He's got a couple of those I like, especially for his little anthologies. We agree to these things and they're fun and they're good and we like doing them. But, there's so many, especially when he's got other novels, right? We're all like, where the fuck is Peace Talks? And he's like, yeah, but I have to write this short story. And, again, and all the different series and everything like that. So it's I get it. But I was like, yeah, it's so typical, right? It was it's the homework, it's the deadline. I did it at I'm like, hey, I get it. Some of my best stuff has come out of the 2 a.m. writing, I
once had a teacher call me out. He's like, I can tell you wrote this in 30 minutes. He's like, do you want to spend any more time on it? I was like, no. And he's like, you'll get an 80, but I think if you just edited it one more time, you'll get a 90. And I was like, I'm happy with 80. I don't dedicate more than 30 minutes to any homework ever. Never. I was never the person who stayed up till 2 a.m. to finish it. If it wasn't done by the time I left the school, nah, I didn't need to do it.
And unfortunately, this was the difference between your English marks and your math marks. They got the same amount of effort. They did not get the same evaluation.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. Some things just come more naturally.
Mm-hmm.
So this story starts off with Harry in his lab, staring longingly at his ad in the Yellow Pages. Harry Dresden, wizard, lost items found, paranormal investigations, consulting, advice, reasonable rates, no love potions, endless purses, parties, or other entertainment.
What do you have against Mary Poppins, Harry?
Mary Poppins?
Endless purses.
Endless purses?
Or is that supposed to be endless wallets?
Purses? Endless carpet bag?
What I'm thinking,
No, so endless just means you're never going to run out of money.
Yeah.
You just...
Right, so
wallets.
money's okay.
Not a Mary Poppins thing at all. Hers is just...
Well, yeah, calling purses to mean just money, though, is a little bit more British slang than American, but...
It's very eldritch. Come on, it's right? Very with the... not Hermione's. What the hell was hers?
Undetectable extension charm.
There you go.
So there's a few things in Harry Potter that were very Time Lord-esque.
Yes.
The tents.
Well, right. Yes. Very. It works, right? That mythical, magical. It's like we got to stick 3 teenagers in the wood for like a year. They can't carry around an apartment building. What are we gonna? Like, let's just make. But yeah. I think it's more just not the size that you can shove anything into it, but the fact that you're never broke, which is what most of us need. I need an endless purse.
No wishing for extra wishes.
No wishing for extra wishes is exactly.
So Bob does not like the advertisement at all. He thinks it's boring as shit.
And again, this is just so very them. It's very cute. It's flat.
How Harry jokes back that I don't think they offered raised lettering, but this is the part that makes me laugh really hard. Bob rolled his eyelights.
Yeah.
Like, the concept of this makes me laugh really, really, really hard. Like, I have visions of a spirit splitting itself in half just for the sole purpose of making its eyeballs have expressions in a skull. So
right. Well, this is what we love about Bob, right? Is that he is just the spirit, this little embodiment. But again, he quote unquote inhabits this. So exactly right. And I just love how, like, Harry said it a few times. He's like, I don't know how he does it, considering it's just an inanimate skull. You know what I mean? Like, it's not some like articulated kind of, and he's like, he has like expressions and like eye rolls and like eyebrow raises and like disappointment and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
for
it's
having
like,
no flesh.
For having no flesh to make any of those things, and not even really a lot of like bone. Like, again, right? I'm like, I don't even know if his. Well, I guess he clicks his teeth sometimes, so I guess he does have the movable
both sets,
a bit of the, but exactly right. I'm like, we know he can move himself as an entity as he does now by banging his head against the wall, but exactly. It's just I love how he manages to somehow imbue.
He needs Harry's permission to leave the skull, but like there's a little bit of a leash for.
Yeah, he can move around his
theatrics.
he can move around his little shelf, right? He does that sometimes where he turns away or bangs or does, but yeah, exactly, right? It's just so very, right? Like, it's just that comfy old shoe put on your robe, like, right? You're hanging out with your best friend or something like that, right? It's just a typical, like, this is like really flat.
The best thing about Bob is that the way that these spirits of intellect work is that they take on a bit of the personality of the
owners and pets kind of a thing, right?
Like,
you start looking like your dog, your intellectual air spirit starts,
Right, but like you get sort of your personality and things like from the person who's like in charge of your spirit or whatever like that, right? So it's just makes it that much better. It's like, same thing as like parent and child. It's like, who the fuck taught you to have all this sass?
Yeah, right.
Why did we ever teach you to speak?
Right? Spend the first couple of years teaching them how to talk, walk and talk, and the rest of their life telling them to sit down and shut up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's just every time you get a moment with Bob and Harry, I'm like, you did that to yourself.
Right, yeah. You just, again, it's that perfect companion kind of a thing, right? If you're like a straight-laced bookworm, you're going to get the no-nonsense. If you're like, I got a little, Harry in you, then you're going to have an assistant that's got, a little Harry. It's like, it just plays very well, right?
Right.
But yeah, aesthetic. No panache, no moxie, no chutzpah.
Yeah, nobody uses those words enough. Like, I think when I read the Moxie part, it made me think of the Kingdom of Loathing. Have you guys ever played that?
I'm not.
Oh my god, it's this online webpage based game. It's stick figures, and it makes fun of all role playing games.
Okay.
Lots of pop culture references. It's been around forever, and yeah, you should totally check it out.
Moxie?
kingdomofloathing.com.
But why does it remind you of Moxie?
Yeah.
Because there's one character class that's a Moxie class.
Okay, that was fair enough.
So Bob has some suggestions about how to make the ad more fun, give it some more dramatics, right? And I love Bob's suggestions. You got fiends foiled, monsters mangled, vampires vanquished, demons demolished. And Harry came close, right? He could have just done no love potions, purses, parties.
Right?
He purposely destroyed his own alliteration.
Right.
There, I love some good alliteration. I'm all for it. I use it frequently. Not everybody is enamored with it. And for some reason, not everybody finds it like the epitome of professionalism.
That's like people that don't appreciate puns.
Right? What
Boring.
is wrong with them?
Because, I think alliteration is great. Whenever you can fit it in.
I feel like I should find out this. I have a feeling, for some reason, I don't know what prompted it, but like one of my older brothers in like high schoolish or something like that, doing like an entire essay with like alliteration, and probably just to prove he could do it, but I don't remember, I don't know if that's what they were talking about or how or why it came up to that, but I'm like, it's too bad. It probably doesn't exist anywhere. But I just remember my mom or somebody talking about it. I'm like, I want to see that. I want to see this. Did you manage it? And what was, like, how do you do an entire fucking essay?
So part of Harry's issue with this is that he doesn't want to lie.
Right.
Which Bob is like, bro, come on.
I love like the back and forth that they really have together. It's great. Like I particularly liked this little reference that Bob has made where he's like, I have nightmares about hell, where all I do is add up numbers and try to have conversations with people like you.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, to what, be an accountant in hell?
Yeah.
This is great.
Which, as we know from other books, could be fun.
There is a purpose.
No, not if you piss him off, but...
Lots of room for advancement.
Yeah.
And I feel Bob here, right? I feel like I've had these conversations with, and you're like... I'm just going to throttle you.
Well, yeah, like when you're trying to like turn like work thing into fun, like we've all had to write signs up for work or something like that, and you want to make it fun, and everyone's like, just say what it is, and it's like, no.
Yeah, or vice versa, where they're just dumb enough that they don't get what the. Yeah, I mean, Harry is being a little bit and I mean, again, you can probably it could be whatever he's got other things on his mind and he is, or it could be that he's needling Bob a little bit on purpose, right? But either I'm like, no, but what frustrates me is I've had them. They're not. They really are just that dumb and don't get anything, and you're like. We had to do up a workplace harassment policy thing recently. So my boss drafted a thing or whatever, and I forget exactly what it was, but it was saying something of either having to talk to people or like, it doesn't matter which one reports it, or we'll have to talk to whoever, or it'll stay confidential between this and this unless we need witnesses, whatever, something like that. So she's like, it'll blah, blah, blah between like the aggressor and the aggressee. And so she gives it to me to prove, and I'm like, aggressee is not a word. I'm like, the closest it maybe comes to some French thing, but it's the aggressor and the aggrieved. Mm-hmm. And she's like, what? And I'm like, she's like, I'm like, no, I'm like, Google it. Like, you don't take my word for it, but I'm like, aggressee is not the thing. And then she was literally trying to come up with like anything other. And I'm like, why can't you just say, because that is literally the word for it. Like,
aggrieved.
Yeah, the wronged and the wrongdoer. And she was like, well, they're not going to understand. And I'm like, then they can Google it. I think in the context, they should probably understand it. I'm like, seriously, people are that to be, you can't let them figure out. And so I think she ended up putting like the aggressor and the afflicted or something. I'm like, fine, pick something else. But it was just like, and it's funny because she complains to a degree about how, like her grandkids and things like that. I'm like, Linda, you're like, I understand a certain amount of dumbing things down for people. But again, I think it's pretty clear what's going on here. Everybody's got a fucking phone. If they don't understand what the word is,
in context.
They're not going to learn what it is if you don't tell them what the word is. I'm like, then nobody's going to know what aggrieved is because nobody's using it. But it was just this big thing where I'm like,
So Bob suggesting breasts is definitely on point. I did kind of have another giggle at that where he's like, how about something with breasts?
You think it needs more drama, more breasts? I think immediately that's where you go.
And I couldn't help but think, like, how do you incorporate that? Like, and like, what would Dresden do for breasts? Like, can he just magically enhance them? Like, do magical boob jobs? Or is that considered other entertainment?
See, and I take it purely as, it doesn't necessarily mean that Dresden could do anything for your boobs one way or the other. Simply that, he wants like the pinup Playboy, like on the mud flaps of trucks.
Yeah, I was thinking just have like a sexy lady in the background.
Yeah, he just wants like that lady as part of the, and then it'll be like, I'll
the
find
wizard's
your key.
assistant, in the ad.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, yeah, it doesn't, I think in Bob's, it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what Harry services, but boobs sell, right? So, it has nothing to do with cars, but you stick a lady in a bikini on a car and everybody wants to buy that car. And I think it's totally that. Bob's just like, who cares? Just, put some boobs or something in there that'll catch people's attention. That's all we want, And they're just like... And again, still, he's
Harry,
looking for
Harry.
He wants the assistant as well. He's like, I'm not hiring someone.
So I like that Bob then does like okay, fine, we'll tell the truth then. Things you've actually done. Because it's a great, what have the last 5 books been about? We've got maidens rescued, enchantments broken, villains unmasked, unicorns protected.
I do like that he does say that all advertisement is about lying.
Yeah. Well, and this is and again, this is where I'm like, I feel like I've had these conversations with people because he's like, when they're showing the alliteration, right? And he's like, it'll bring in the business. And Harry's like, yeah, the nutsos or whatever, right? And he's like, I don't know if anyone's told you, but people don't believe in, like, monsters and demons. And Bob is like, yeah, they don't believe in love potions either. And Harry's like, and I'm like, I get that, right? To me, I'm like, it makes sense. Like, his ad does make sense, right? He's like,
the first thing that somebody goes to for a voodoo practitioner is that they
and that's the thing,
money
right?
spells and love spells.
It's exactly, it's that combination of, we know nobody believes in this stuff, but if you're gonna, this is what you're gonna, right? Like, nobody believes
every
in
palm reader and tarot reader at every convention and fair and
tall,
whatever.
dark stranger.
You got the money line, the wealth line, the past and the present, or past and the future. Like,
yeah.
That's it. That's the basics.
Right? Those are the basics,
what
exactly.
everyone wants to know.
Right? So I'm like, I know it's funny. I'm like, you're right. On the one hand, you're right. Nobody's like, you don't really deal with vampires, but totally you're like, well, what kind of love potion her? Like, if you can help my love life, I'll give it rates. Sure, why not? Let's go for it.
And
right?
Harry said too, he's had to play into the, like, people expect a wizard. Sometimes I gotta pretend like I, like, stand dramatic, smell the perfume, pretend I know who's behind me, like,
right?
Be all gruff and angry.
Yeah, but I love this dichotomy of exactly, it's like, okay, yeah, like, they don't believe it, but they believe some things, and it's like, some of the nonsense is okay to put in there, but some of the nonsense is going to look bad. You know what I mean? It's that line between, like, which imaginary stuff can I talk about and which imaginary stuff we're just not going to go, or, and it's like...
It's like, you said it's like a day in the life, but it's like, this is what they don't show you behind being a super cool badass wizard, is how to put the ads in the paper.
Right? What do you include? What do you leave out? Right?
It is nice, though, to see that, like further on what he touched on, with death masks and putting away the Susan thing, and he's not going to focus on just fixing her, and he's moving on with his life, is that, like, yeah, he's committed to going back to his business, and, like,
yes.
He's like, I want to pay my rent, and I want to keep my job and my house, and Bob is like, you're going to have to shoplift groceries in a minute.
Yeah. Well, even that, right, like, I'm doing formulas here, it's like, formulae, Latin master, but yeah, it's like, you're not gonna need it unless you need it. I'm like, I wonder about some of these things, and I'm like, really, Harry? I get you doing on the up and up, but we also know Harry lives in a very gray world, and there's things Harry's okay with, and, and it's like, really, Harry, you do struggle a lot, like, you're trying to run your businesses a bit, but I'm like, honestly, why don't you? Like, we've talked about some of these things before, where he's like, oh, you could, some of them have gone badly, where Bob has harassed him before about trying to do, like, a weight loss potion, and so I'm like, sometimes he's dabbled in commercial uses for his, but at the same time, right, it's like, we know a lot of your shit works. Why don't you have some kind of, like, fast energy bar? Yeah, really, the protein bar does nothing, but the magic spell you've enhanced it with is totally going to give you that I don't need to sleep for 3 days thing, or why don't you have a way to, like, shoplift groceries? Like, I feel like that would not be, like, completely above and beyond Harry's moral, like, I'm starving, people won't hire me, I need to eat, why don't you have, like, a little magic garden that grows shit, or that, you know what I mean? Like, things like this sometimes. I'm like, really, Harry, why don't you help yourself with these things? Like, you can do an invisibility potion.
I feel like that could fall under the brownies. The brownies would totally, like, if you just set up a little window box, like, full of greenery things.
And honestly, now they do, because he does mention that when they came in and cleaned, they stocked up his pantry and stuff like that. So we know there are. So, again, this is, I guess, more in the hyperbole of it, that he's not necessarily starving to death at this point either.
But still broke.
Prior to that, it's like...
But this is another problem, too, with him, is that, like, he could easily have daily business by doing those things. We've seen him make the copy spell before. We've seen him do... whatever these small little potions are that he could totally mass market and whatever. And then he's like, well, I don't want all, like, every random loser not really interested in magic who just thinks that this is just another, like, hocus pocus, trick thing to come in. But then it's like, at the same time, he's like, why the fuck does the only cases anyone ever brings me means I end up dying and blah, blah, blah. Because, like, the last time he got, like, a real case, someone coming to his door had a real job for him. You've got Monica Sells, or you've got...
Mab?
The Lydia kind of like, oh, please come protect me, I've got this new, and he basically sent her away, which is, the Cassandra Teal sort of thing. Yeah. And then you had Mab, who was, like, basically setting him up and whatever, right?
And never paid, gosh darn it.
The rest of his cases are more like he's walking down the street and gets jumped, and he's like, whoa, 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 whoa.
I gotta deal with this.
I gotta deal with this, right? I guess Father Vincent did kind of track him down at Larry's cells and hire him for a job, but he probably didn't get paid from that either, because he basically killed him.
He got hired with the gold nugget.
Oh, yes, Bigfoot, he did do that, right?
Yeah.
And he got a retainer from
Vincent.
Just one priest is another priest.
All interchangeable.
I'll never remember that, no matter how many books we got.
I'm learning that.
And whatever that French guy's name was.
Gaston Lerouge.
Yes.
Sorry, you mean Jacques Cousteau.
Jacques Cousteau.
So much better that way.
But point is that yes, he needs some actual money, and this whole Vampire Slayer. Wait, the new version that Bob wants for Vampire Slayer, Ghost Remover, Fairy Fighter, Werewolf Exterminator, Police Consultant, Foe of the Foot Soldiers of Hell. That's a little bit more wordy, as Harry complains about the price.
Yeah.
It's not bad though. Like
It's
I was
not
like when I
bad.
read that the first time I was like, yeah, actually.
And then he complains. He's all like, well, Murphy doesn't want me to advertise. Okay, delete that one sentence. You lose some letters and you make Murphy happy. And then the rest of it's great. Vampire Slayer, Ghost Remover, Fairy Fighter, Werewolf Exterminator, Foe of the Foot Soldiers of Hell.
Right?
It's terribly accurate, but like it's a little bit pointed.
It is quite, yeah. It's almost like...
When's the last time I needed that?
It's a little like standing on a soapbox and being like, I fuck up Marcone, I fuck up Bianca, I fuck up Mab, I fuck up Aurora, I fuck up, like...
Come on, Denarian, do you want another shot at me?
Let's just specifically put them on the list and see who's happy with me after that.
Yeah, right?
I mean, what would you add to it? Like if that's not covered in here, like.
That's a really good question. I guess I probably would put something like Velvet Room, checkmark. Gravestones, checkmark. Just all the places he's blown up, just with like no more information, just a check. Or a cross through. And then I'd leave like Wrigley Stadium cross through, but like, you
Again, though, but does that bring you the clientele you
Unexplained
want?
demolitions.
Yeah.
Because
Even better, you just put in all the unexplained newspaper reports in there, and he just puts the date of those, like, he's just like 11/23/41, 11/26/2003. That's all there is, and you have to do your own research from there.
Unexplained solutions.
Yeah, what the hell is this guy up to? It'd be funny. That'd be a great advertisement for a wizard, I think, if it said it was just a bunch of dates from the last 3 or 4 years he's been in operation, and you have to go like,
that would
what
be kinda
happened on
funny.
that day?
I remember reading an article like ages ago, and I think that's what Google did. Like, I don't know when, I want to say in its earlier days, but honestly, I don't know. But that's all they did was they put up like a billboard with like a formula or something on it, and then if you were able to solve it, it led you to like Google's webpage or blah 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 blah, and that was kind of your interview, right? If you're smart enough to figure this out, or you have the inventiveness or the what you know. So I'm like, yeah, I kind of like that appeal to you just put like a bunch of dates in, but at the same time, I'm like, he's not looking for that high. Like, again, that's really going to limit the amount of people that actually, right? Harry's like, no, I need the regular.
It throws in the
block.
mystical, magical wizard mojo.
It does, but then he's just going to end up with fucking like Mab on his doorstep because she's the one that's going to be like, oh, I get what this is. He's going to be like, fuck no, like
He'd have to put in there nowhere else to turn.
Yeah.
At your what is it? At your wit's end, at the end of your rope, at the end, like,
Last resort.
last ditch.
It's one of those things where it's like, it's easy to aim for first place. It's really hard to purposely come in second, He's like, I don't want any crazy rando off the street that's looking to buy some third eye pills,
Yeah.
I'm not looking to bring Mab to my doorstep every week for a job
I don't want to
proposal,
look too clever.
but somewhere in the middle, a job like Lydia every week would be okay, I can, find some lost keys easily,
Really? 'Cause that whole thing with Lydia didn't end well for him.
It did not, but she was a little bit more. Even Monica Sells was like,
yes.
sure, it was getting into a little bit closer, like the way the Jim Butcher writes, obviously, it's just that everything's connected to everything. But if it was just on the level and you didn't have an author that was trying to get you killed every book, you know?
Exactly.
It's a
Just
nice
sort of
medium
a missing
ground.
person that had a magical twist to it.
I mean, he could advertise more along the lines of the PI, but and like explain how advertise things he can do using magic, but without telling people that he's using magic.
Well, that's exactly, like, a lot of the time he does. He's like, I'm going to use magic to find your keys. And they're like, okay, buddy. But, people don't generally believe. It's just like, I can't find my keys anywhere. Your fucking advertisement says you can find keys. And Harry's like, good, that's at least business.
Yeah.
Right? But it's like, it's hard to be this little, like...
It could be a little, though. I think kind of like what you're saying is exactly, you could be like, oh, do you like exorcisms and things like that, And again, depending on, right, exorcism means a lot. It could be supernatural.
See, that would be better.
Faith-based.
Exorcism would be a great one, because if there's actually something going on, that could really pique his interest and give him something to do. And, this is another problem. Bob's like, oh, you never lie, because we know from before. It's like, some girl came and thought that I could help her, but I couldn't, and I didn't want to take her money because that's not fair, right? So it's like, even that is like, there's no point in attracting business that really doesn't need him, because he's just going to turn him away anyways.
Well, that too. I was going to say, it's not just that he refuses to lie. It's more, I think, as Bob pointed out, that he sucks at it. So yeah, there are moments where, exactly, he's like, I don't think I'm suited for this. What, like with Meryl and stuff like that, he's like, why don't you just... And I mean, again, I get, that's a certain... integrity into your business and things like that too, right? Like, we all get pissed off about things like, like, oh, we'll do this and this and this, and then you call them and are like, oh, we can't help you with that, we can't help you with that, we don't. And it's like, then why the fuck, like, you made it sound like you could do this, and you can't help me at all. Or worse, they're like, sure, pay us the $200 consulting fee, and then they're like, oh, yeah, we can, and it's like, then why did you fucking take my money? Like, you knew you could, you know what I mean, right? So I'm like, I get that he doesn't want to be that guy, but again, it's we know there are moments when Harry's more than willing to. It's just he's not good at it. So he generally doesn't, because he's like, I'm just gonna get more drunk. Like, I'm just gonna fuck myself up. Like, they're not gonna. So I have to find the best way to tell the truth and not. So I mean, yeah, I think it's kind of a little bit of a half and half there with that.
I kind of like your idea of the exorcisms, though.
I think that's a great middle ground, right?
Yeah. Because it'll attract like more spiritual stuff, and if he can't, it's not really for him, he can hand it off to like Michael
or Mort.
Yeah.
One way or the other. But I think that's just a little bit like, because people believe in ghosts, they believe.
Well, that's what I
in
mean,
things.
right? I'm like, you could have like the
if it's a real case, it's good for him, and if it's not real, he just won't take their money.
Yeah, and yeah,
right.
But yeah, I agree. There are a few things like that he probably could jump in there with us. Again, a little bit more on the paranormal investigation side.
Play more into the fact that you are paranormal. Like, people believe in Ghostbusters and psychics and tarot readers and whatever. And I get you don't want to come across as some fooey whatever, but
unexplained phenomenon explained.
Exactly, right? And maybe just hang up your posters and Max, specifically that's your audience and brand already. The people who are already going to these magic places. Right. We know in later books there's a magic shop, right? Like, so that's like, maybe Yellow Pages is a little bit too broad.
Yeah, it needs to be more in magazines.
Yeah, what the fuck does Susan advertise for?
I'm gonna say that probably comes more down to money or whatever, though. Like, and I have to admit, it's kind of, I don't remember when, but I feel like it was some job we were looking at ads, and I'm like, it's because he makes the joke here, about like, I should have gone 4-color.
Is he actually under W, under Wizard?
Yes, he's under Wizards. He's the only one under Wizard.
And this is part of the problem too, is that he's determined to be in the Yellow Pages. He's like, I want there to be a wizard, because people have harped on him for it before.
See, he could just change the order and just put it under private investigator wizard.
Yeah, but
because then he's
Harry's
at least under private investigator.
My apartment, my car, my house, my profession.
But I
wizard.
guess, I was going to say, I guess that he's a wizard that does private investigation. Yeah. He's not
wizard
a private investigator that does wizard stuff. Is exactly he's like wants very much to be like, no, I'm a wizard.
I'm a wizard.
I'll do private investigator stuff.
I file my taxes under wizard.
Under wizard. But what I
they send it back every year.
Finally give it. He's like, at least I never have to pay taxes because they just think I'm a money. But I was going to say, he's like the joke about like the 4-color ad or whatever, and I'm like, I remember looking at this one time, and I'm like, it really is like, there's a big difference between a little like 4-line black and white ad and a color ad and a half a page ad and a straight text or pictures. Like, I remember one time being like, holy cow, like it can be like a big jump sometimes between one to the other, right? So I get that. So I feel like part of that too, I'm like, would it, like, again, the Yellow Pages is the basis. Everybody's got it. They can't charge that astronomical, or everybody's going to be like, fuck you, and they won't exist. They need people to advertise, so they have to be somewhat reasonable. Whereas magazines and things, I'm like, well, you're getting more specialty, and again, you'd have to advertise in like 10 magazines to reach your audience, as opposed to like one Yellow Pages. Everybody knows that. So I feel that while it would be a good idea, and maybe that's probably feeds into some of why he couldn't or wouldn't or whatever, that he's like, I can barely afford a Yellow Page ad, I can't afford to put something out in like GQ or Unicorns Weekly or whatever.
But still, you think you could drop off a couple business cards with Mac and the Magic Shop and Morton Alphas and be like, hand these out to people you think that need them. Bye.
And I'm sure he does.
But alas, Harry's not in it for the money.
No.
Never is.
Never is.
You fool.
Bob calls him hopeless.
As always.
Then why do you do it?
Someone has to.
That's the question everyone's asking.
They do.
Why? Why the fuck do you do this shit, Harry?
The Cabbage Patch doll asked it.
Not least of which Harry.
Shiro asked.
Why do I do this? Why am I doing this? And yeah, it is funny, like you say, is Harry always says that, and that's always his answer, but he's like, you say, when Shiro's like, but why? Or the Cabbage Patch is like, but it's like, I don't know why. Why does I want to know why? But I do it. I have to do it.
Isn't it enough to just wake up and go to work every day? God.
Right? Right?
So we know from reading the previous books that his sense of responsibility and his need to protect is just too strong. That's why.
That possessiveness, on my world. I'm gonna keep my world safe, my world good.
It's my neighborhood.
It's my neighborhood. It's my supernatural community. No one's gonna fuck with it.
And keep my side of the street clean, and you worry about your side of the street, and occasionally you're going to be like, oh, but I have something over here. Fine, I will look at your side of the street too. Okay, fine, I will go around to the next block. Okay, I'm going across town, but just this once.
And then suddenly all of Chicago is his.
Yeah, stay off my block.
Yeah, just pees on a lot of trees.
This concludes our episode 11.1, Alliterate Advertising. Thank you for listening. You can find us online at freeflowrambling.com and McAnallys.ca. There we have links to our other podcasts, social media, and other fun tidbits. Please subscribe if you like what you're hearing, and please consider supporting us through Patreon to keep the magic alive and to see more content. We are Free Flow Rambling. Conjure by it at your own risk.